So we're going to be talking about how to say cold and cool in this episode. Now, when I say cold, I don't mean like to catch a cold. That would be 감기 is the word for cold. I also don't mean like stylish and cool. When I say cool, you could either use 쿨하다, so to be cool, or perhaps 멋있다, to be stylish, or maybe you did want to learn these words, in which case, there you go. We're going to be talking about cool and cold as it relates to the temperature. And the two most common verbs for saying something is cold are 차갑다 and 춥다. 차갑다 is how you say something is cold to the touch. So something feels cold. For example, your ice cream could be cold, or your steering wheel could be cold, etc. So this is for the physical sensation of something that feels cold. If you can touch it, and if it feels cold, then it is 차갑다. For example, here's a common sentence you might say in the wintertime. 손이 차가워요. My hands are cold. 춥다, however, is how you say the weather is cold, or more specifically, how to say that you actually feel cold. So this will be the one you'll use to describe cold weather. However, note that even if it's a warm day, if you're eating lots of ice cream and drinking ice water, you still might feel cold with 춥다. So again, it's really about how you feel. 눈이 오고 추운 날에는, so on days where it's snowing and cold. So on snowy, cold days, 집에 있어요. I stay home. So I just stay home on cold, snowy days. But there is another word for saying something is cold, and that is 차다. And you can think of 차다 as equivalent to 차갑다 for something that's physically cold, something that's cold to the touch. And in most cases, you can use 차다 in the same way that you can use 차갑다. However, of these two, 차갑다 is much more commonly used. So if you just want to say something's cold, I recommend using this one. And if there's no context, and you were to just say 차요, it's cold, it could also sound like you're saying 차다, which is a different verb that means to kick. So it could mean like I kick something without any context. But if you were to say this one, it would be clear you meant cold. So then when is 차다 even used? Well, it's used commonly in expressions as an adjective, in which case you'll see it as 찬. So 찬 something, 찬 noun. Let me write a few examples on the board. For example, 찬물, cold water, 찬 음식, cold food, 찬 바람, cold breeze, cold air, cold wind, and 찬 밥, cold rice, so a cold meal. And these are just a few, there are many more. Also, when you're talking about your feet or your hands being cold, it's common to use 차다 to talk about that. But you also could use 차갑다 there too. So besides these, and for talking about your hands and feet, I really recommend just using 차갑다. So then how do you say cool? Well, most of the time you're just going to need this verb, 시원하다. This can mean both cool as in cool temperature or cool to the touch. But it also means cool as in refreshing. So you can say 시원한 물, and it implies also that the water is refreshing to drink. Not only that it's cool in temperature. I should note though, you might be wondering about another similar looking verb, and that is 시원하다. This one is not the same. Although it also translates as cool, it's not used for something temperature cool. This one means that someone's personality is cool, as in perhaps lively personality. They're just a cool person. However, not saying that they're popular cool or stylish cool. So again, they have a cool, lively personality. We're not done talking about this verb though. This might sound a bit funny, but you might hear native Korean speakers say 시원하다 after drinking something that's hot and or spicy, even if the weather is hot. As a beginner, I had no clue what they're talking about. They would be sipping some hot, spicy soup on like the hottest day of the year, and they would say, 시원하다. They're obviously sweating, and that's because 시원하다 is not only used to say that something is cool or refreshing. It's also kind of like, this is so refreshing, I feel relieved. So it's also used kind of in the sense of you feel relieved about something. For example, you wash your car and you clean it out, and it's really clean now, and you can feel, 시원하다. Or you go on a long camping trip and then you come back home and you take a nice hot shower. 시원하다. You're obviously not cool, but you feel like relieved. you feel refreshed. Or even better, you finally clear your nose and you can breathe again from both nostrils. Ah, 시원하다. Okay, but then what's relieving or refreshing about drinking spicy and or hot soup on a hot day? Nothing, really. Because when it comes to that, it's actually, the reason is a little bit different. It has to do with a Korean belief known as 이열치열. Now this is an idiom and it means to basically fight fire with fire. The short version of what this means is, if you want to beat the heat, you have to become the heat. So you're feeling hot on a hot day, drink some hot spicy soup. That'll show them. You know, if you can't beat them, join them, am I right? In addition, when you drink spicy or hot food on a hot day, you're gonna sweat a lot. Even if it's not hot, you're gonna sweat. And that sweat kind of makes your skin wet, right? And then when the air blows over it, you feel a little bit cool. 시원하다. So this kind of works, I guess. I mean, I still prefer air conditioning and ice water personally, but it kind of makes sense. So anyway, if you see someone saying that, that's what they mean. Now, there are two more words for cold that we don't really have time to go over in detail, but I do want to mention them. The first one is 쌀쌀하다. So it's to be cold, or you can think of it as like chilly. It can also be used when you're talking about someone's personality being cold. Like, they're a bit cold, as in unfriendly. And one more is the verb 시리다. 시리다 means to be really cold, so much that it hurts. And it's used specifically when you're talking about your hands or your feet, or maybe your teeth hurt from the cold. So like you're freezing and you're in pain, like, ow, cold. So maybe you eat something like extremely cold and your teeth hurt, or you're just out in the cold weather and your hands are just freezing and they're stinging, kind of like that. If you live in Korea during the winter, in some areas, you might experience that. In fact, probably everywhere in Korea. Korea is really cold during the winter. And there are many other verbs for how to say freezing or chilly, but this is all I have for this video. Are there any others that you would have wanted to learn about? Please let me know in the comments below. I do read all of them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.